Hello, this is J2O aka Kinetic, back with Season 11, Match 2. And this is my opponent today. This is actually, I keep saying it, but this is the best matchup I've had on paper ever in Grand Arena. He actually does have more Zetas than me. I have more mods on the speed plus 10, but everything else is pretty well balanced. He has a few more gear 11s. You know, I have one more gear 12. Jumping right into ships here. My opponent does have the Millennium Falcon, as did I. And so we both actually opted for literally the same, at least starting front on defense. It's kind of the old meta without bigs. But I do run an undership here. I was trying to get as many points as possible. That was definitely what this match was going to come down to again. And it's interesting at this level how that always seems to be the case. You don't quite, it's whoever has the most depth. And it's really quality depth. And if you can make your opponent stumble with your depth, it's going to give you enough to win. So my focus here was just to not only clear, but to make sure I maximize the point advantage I had. And you'll see I do a relatively good job of that here. I get some bonus points, but I end up with bigs not being full health, I think. It's very unfortunate that dodge, because that would have cleaned that out quicker for me. But, I mean, it is what it is. And so you'll see I'm just kind of working through here. So, yeah, my opponent was definitely well-versed. He was ranked very highly in both ships and arena, same as myself. There you go, 65 banners there first. So I missed one full protection unit, but I did get 3 for the unused slot. So that was good. And you see he does have some developing teams for defense, same as me. I'm developing teams on defense. He's got Ewoks, and he has Ewoks without low gray. So of course, this is an easy win for Nest. I debated putting in Kira, but she would have died anyway, and Nest may have ended up with full protection at the end, but ultimately Kira would have died, so the points would have netted out. And I didn't think Nest needed the protection regen, so I went ahead and just ran her. His Ewoks are good. I definitely would get low gray over the Ewok Scout there. It just low gray is kind of that support that like Stark is for Imperial Troopers. First Order Officer is for First Order. It's good. You just kind of need the utility that it brings. I think for Ewoks to really work functionally on defense, and obviously the AOE days is kind of a big deal there. I'll take a moment here to talk about the Darth Melech buff, aka nerf to Emperor Palpatine. That's an interesting change. I know exactly why CG is doing it. They're doing it because they want to reward the people who invested the money up front. But I'm not a fan of that move. I think that just butchers arena diversity further. And I don't know that's the direction that I'd want this game to go. I think having a balance as close as possible where teams can reliably counter each other, both on offense and defense in arena, is difficult but ideal. And so you see I bring my JTR team into the First Order match here, and it's a decent First Order team. I'll use JTR in First Order Bounty Hunters. That's kind of my go-to for that. I always take JTR on offense. I don't like her on defense. I think the AI is just a little bit too silly, and I think you can get a lot more offensive potential out of her on offense. And so that's what I tend to fall back on. And right now, you see I'm trying to manage my cover and my evasions there. And that's in order to make sure that I try to end this match with maximum protection. I actually haven't gotten to the past few Grand Arenas I've played. I've showed this team off. And I have not actually been able to end the match with full protection. But that obviously does make a big difference. Not only running the one down, which I typically do anyway, but the ending with the full protection. So see there, I top up protection. I have 2 tanks. His mods were not terribly speed mods on these guys. They had some speed, but not it. It wasn't like 100 speed on either of them. And so I'm able to pretty much handle that. GTR is he's gaining health from all the debuffs. Well, that should do it. Yeah. So that's a 4 and 4. So that's 61 banners. That's nice. That's a good, clean, solid win against a decent team. He does have Boba Fett there. You'll see he's got a. So I decided to run Darth Revan against Boba Fett. Because obviously the beauty of this Grand Arena is you get to see all of your opponents' teams up front. So you can kind of game plan based off of that right away. There's a little bit more strategy, I think, involved where you can hide defenses on your back line because you can kind of front load difficult teams, making your opponent think that they can let everything go, but then you can hide something that they're not going to be able to overcome. But you'll see Darth Revan kind of pretty easily handles this team. I actually stay alive longer than I expected. And I don't AoE here because I don't want to break the fear. But I end up AoEing anyway. So you'll see. So what do I do here? Oh yeah, that's a lot of damage. And Deathmark takes care of Bosk. 55k. Sheesh. Really do like this team, but even with Malik, they just Malik and Sith Trooper or Sith Assassin, just those 4th and 5th slots just don't feel right. It feels like there's a disconnect there. So I guess we'll have to let the Malik thing play out a little longer before I can really make an assessment of that. And since I don't have them, I'm not getting a lot of reps with them, so I'm kind of going by what I'm seeing. It seems like there's a disconnect, and it doesn't feel clean. It doesn't feel as clean as like Jedi Knight Revan or JTR or some of these other events that came out in the past. So I did take Revan in against his JTR, and obviously overmatched. I did run one less. I wanted to keep Bastila out of this group. That would have made it faster, significantly faster. But I did want to keep her out so I could run her as a lead. And I will do that typically based on my opponents. It's a little more challenging again in matches where they have things hidden on the back line. Let's say, for example, I know I can counter their Revan with my Revan without Bastila. I can run Hoda instead of that, and that gives me enough damage to get through a solid Jolie. He actually had a better statted Revan than I did, and I had a better statted Darth Revan than my opponent did. And so he kept both of his for offense, just as I did. And so I really didn't have to worry about those two teams. And obviously that's something to not have to, that's nice to not have to worry about, because I can take Revan and I can clean up at full protection, maximize my points. You see I do run 3 here to try to get some extra points. Bastila's leadership with the Zeta is what I'm relying on to handle the tenacity for the dots to kind of makes this Old Republic team run. So let's talk about the state of Arena. For me, the state of Arena is terrible right now. Between shard chats and the lack of diversity at the top, it's a little ridiculous. I think it fundamentally has lost the entire point of what the arena was supposed to be, and that to me is not fun. That's not enjoyable. That's why I am enjoying Grand Arena. Every time we have these events, it lets me compete against a different opponent. There's different strategies. There's things that work, things that don't work. It lets me kind of experiment a little bit for territory wars. And so, I really enjoy that aspect. I would love for them to do away with Arena and give players another method of earning crystals daily. Because shard chats, I think, it's not about skill anymore. It's about who joined first. And that to me is a little silly too. It doesn't make a lot of sense for gameplay. It doesn't make a lot of sense for actual competition. But obviously the driver is the crystals. You know, I'm not faulting anybody for doing it. You know, why wouldn't you? You know, you're getting 450 crystals a day. Of course you're gonna do it. So I think they need to find a different avenue there. I would love to see some live arena, like player versus player, where you're actually making the moves real time, and put a limit on the time to select an attack, or something along those lines. I chose Imperial Troopers here so they would end with full protection. I knew I would get a guaranteed 60 points from that. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoy it. Please leave any feedback, like, subscribe. Have a good one. With